devil doesn't knock. He waits in silence until the world invites him in. Funny, isn't it? They thought you were gone just because you stopped talking, as if silence was some kind of death. No, silence was the cocoon, the grave they buried you in, without knowing you were still breathing, still watching, still sharpening your fangs. They called it peace. You called it preparation. And now you're not speaking because words are too small for what you've become. You disappeared. Not to escape, to mutate. While they laughed at your absence, you made deals with the dark, trained in shadows, became fluent in pain. You didn't vanish, you evolved. They didn't notice the shift, but oh, they will. Every second of quiet was a sermon. Every night you suffered in silence was an offering. And now, the silence screams. It's louder than any name they tried to bury you under. They thought your silence was weakness, a white flag, a whimper. No, it was the sound of teeth grinding behind closed doors. It was the sound of storm clouds forming above a house built on arrogance. They mistook your stillness for submission. What they missed is that statues don't move either, but they last forever, and they're always watching. You didn't go ghost, you went nuclear. You didn't retreat, you reloaded. And now every step you take is a warning shot. Every breath is a countdown. This is not your comeback. This is your arrival. No fanfare, no announcement, just presence, just pressure. Just that eerie feeling crawling up their spine, like something wicked finally got tired of waiting. And you know what's beautiful? They still don't get it. They think they're safe because you haven't said a word. But the most dangerous creatures don't roar. They stare, they wait, and then they strike once. Just. And when the dust clears, the silence becomes sacred, untouchable, like a legend with no origin story, just blood and aftermath. This isn't silence. This is judgment, holding its breath, waiting for the perfect moment to exhale. You don't need a gavel to pass judgment. Just look someone dead in the eye and say nothing. Judgment isn't loud. It doesn't need robes or rituals. It doesn't scream, it stares. Cold, quiet, final. You don't beg for justice anymore. You embody it. You don't wait to be heard. You just show up, and the room shifts. The guilty feel it first, that pit in their stomach, a twitch in their smile, that ghost of your silence wrapping around their throat, like a verdict they forgot was coming. You used to react, now you watch. Watch them squirm. Watch them expose themselves. It's beautiful. Let them talk. Let them perform. Every lie, every fake smile. They think you don't see it, but you do, and you don't flinch. That's what breaks them. Not your words, your stillness, your unshakable calm. Like a blade that's already touched skin and doesn't need to swing again. Funny how the loudest ones crack the fastest. The ones who mocked your silence now check the room for your shadow. They feel it, the shift, the reversal. You're not the one in the hot seat anymore. They are, and the chair's burning. You didn't raise your voice, you raised your standards, and in doing so, you sentenced them without saying a word. You've become a quiet storm, a spiritual reckoning cloaked in restraint. While they rage, you radiate. While they panic, you calculate. You've ascended into a realm where noise is meaningless and presence is lethal. You don't speak to be heard. You exist to be felt. Every inch of your silence echoes like thunder in their chest. This is chaos with discipline, a beast in meditation. You're not here to argue. You're here to decide. They thought judgment was coming. No, no. Judgment arrived the moment you stopped explaining yourself, the moment you stopped caring whether they understood. You know who you are now, and that knowledge, that's the sentence. That's the executioner. That's the crown. Let them plead, let them spiral, let them finally realize the silence wasn't peace. It was power. And you are the storm in the courtroom. No robe, no jury, just eyes that see through everything and lips that never needed to move. Labels are for the weak. You burned every one they tried to pin on you. They called you broken, so you shattered everything. They called you lost, so you burned the map. Every label they stuck to your back became fuel. Too much, too cold, too intense. Nah, too real. They tried to box you in, wrap you in neat little tags to make you easier to ignore. But you don't fit in boxes. You're not a file, you're fire. And fire doesn't get categorized, it consumes the system. They created a version of you that made them comfortable, watered down, dull, harmless, and when you outgrew their script, they panicked. See, people don't fear what they understand, they fear what they can't control. And you, my friend, became uncontrollable. They didn't see that your silence wasn't confusion. It was rejection. Rejection of them, of their names, their frames, their fiction. You felt that pain, the ache of being misread, the sting of laughter behind your back, the heaviness of being underestimated by people with no imagination. And for a while, you tried to fix it, tried to explain, clarify, play their game until you realized, why fix what they broke? Let them choke on their own illusions. Let them label shadows while you become the darkness itself. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be undeniable. And the beauty of it, you don't have to say a damn thing. Your silence is now the mirror, and they can't stand what they see. Every move you make, unwritten, every breath, uncaged. You're not following their definitions. You erased the dictionary and wrote your truth in blood, grit, and holy rage. You don't correct them anymore. You watch. You let them speak their fantasies while you live your reality. You let them underestimate while you dominate. They'll never get it. And that's the point. Because when they finally realize who you really are, it'll be too late. Their version of you will be ashes, and your version, untouchable, unnamed, unfazed. You're not rebelling. You're redefining. And every time they whisper, every time they question, every time they tremble in your presence, it means one thing: their language failed to contain you. Welcome to the era where you are the definition, and everything else, background noise. You locked eyes with your reflection, and it flinched first. There's a moment, one that cracks the soul open like glass beneath pressure, when you stare at the mirror long enough and realize it's not showing you who you are. It's showing you what you've survived. That haunted look, that twitch in your jaw, that ache behind your eyes, that's not weakness. That's every version of you that died screaming so the current one could breathe. And you didn't look away. You watched. The beast inside, you met it, shook hands, said, "We ride together now." The same monster they told you to kill, you kept alive in secret, fed it pain, trained it in silence. While the world taught you to smile through betrayal, you carved fangs under your grin. Now that beast is loyal. It doesn't growl at others. It guards your throne. You're not suppressing it, you've crowned it. That mirror was never about appearance. It was about confrontation. And what did you see? The masks, the lies, the fragments. You didn't just remove them, you shattered them. And it hurt. Damn, it hurt. But pain is honest, and honesty is war. You waged it inside first, ripped off your own illusions, held your ego by the throat, and asked, "Who the hell do you think you are?" This is the breakdown they warned you about, the one you had to go through, where tears become gasoline, where shame becomes steel, where every soft version of yourself burns until all that's left is truth, muscle, and madness. And once the fire dies out, you're standing there, naked, scorched, reborn, holding your own ashes like this is mine. I built this pain. Now I'll build power. They think mirrors reflect? Nah, they reveal. And yours didn't show you a victim. It showed you a weapon. A soul sharpened by suffering. A grin stitched with scars. And now, every time you look into that mirror, it doesn't flinch anymore. It salutes. Because it knows the one who broke down never came back. Only the one who chose to rise did. So go on. Look again. Stare until your past begs for mercy. Until your shadow stands behind you, not against you. Until your reflection says, "Damn, we finally became who we were afraid of." The most dangerous man in the room is the one who doesn't justify a single thing. You've entered the era where you don't explain, you exist. Where you don't seek permission, you move. And every step you take in silence, it deafens the ones who expected your voice to beg for validation. They wanted answers, wanted your why, your how, your reason for breathing the way you do. But you gave them something worth nothing. No updates, no closure, just absence, just elevation. You owe them nothing, not a post, not a paragraph, not a single drop of explanation to feed their curiosity. You were not built to be understood. You were built to be unforgettable. And nothing haunts a coward more than the silence of the one they tried to define. While they dig through old texts, old wounds, old memories, you're already becoming unreachable. Let them rot in confusion. Every time you withhold a response, you gain power. Every time you don't react, you tighten the noose. That silence they mock, it becomes pressure. It becomes paranoia. It becomes a mirror they can't look into without swallowing guilt. You see, they expected you to crack, to explain your evolution, but you became the mystery. And mysteries don't chase closure, they create obsession. You don't scream anymore. Your silence screams for you. It's louder than revenge. It's colder than distance. It's more violent than words. And when they realize they can't reach you, that is the punishment. When they realize their access expired the moment they thought you were weak, that is the sentence. They thought ghosting was a trend. You made it spiritual warfare. Let them replay every moment in their head. Let them wonder where they lost control. Let them suffer in the gaps between their assumptions and your silence. That's not just quiet. That's domination. That's legacy. That's psychological hell. You didn't walk away. You ascended. And when they scream into the void, hoping to hear your voice again, all they'll get is the echo of your power. So no, you don't owe anyone your story. You are the story, and the ones who couldn't read it when they had the chance, they don't deserve the ending. Every tremble became a hymn, every nightmare a prophecy. You spoke fear before you spoke words. Before you learned how to lie with a smile, you trembled in rooms where love felt like punishment. You flinched at kindness because it always came with a blade. You learned early, this world doesn't feed the soft, it devours them. So you adapted. You didn't overcome fear, you became fluent in it. Every stuttered heartbeat, every tear you wiped in silence, every shadow that lingered too long was training. They told you fear was weakness. Nah, fear is memory. Fear is instinct. Fear is the ancient drumbeat inside your bones that kept you alive when logic failed. You don't run from it anymore. You ride it. You drag it with you like a loyal dog on a leash, because now you understand. It wasn't fear that broke you. It was the cage you placed around it. You tried to bury it, tried to smile over it. But fear doesn't die, it waits. And when you stopped hiding, when you looked your trauma dead in the face and said, "Talk to me," it didn't scream. It sang. It told you stories of nights you never processed, of moments you blacked out just to keep breathing. And that pain, it turned to heat. It turned to fire. And you built a furnace from it, a temple of scars where you light candles with gasoline. Every betrayal became a blueprint, every humiliation a hammer, every childhood ghost a guide whispering, "This way, monster, we've got empires to burn." You didn't heal by forgetting. You healed by weaponizing. You turned your fear into fuel so raw, so pure, it burns longer than any lie ever told about you. You're not fearless, that's a myth. You're something worse. You're someone who understands fear and chooses to move anyway. Someone who lets the tremble sharpen them, who sees nightmares as rehearsals for greatness. That's what terrifies them. Not that you suffered, but that you made your suffering a strategy. So the next time fear creeps in, smile, welcome it. Pour it a drink, say, "I remember you. Now show me the way to my next kill." They don't remember what you said. They remember the silence that followed. You didn't slam the door. You didn't light it on fire. You just disappeared. Quiet, clean, surgical, no tantrum, no final monologue, just absence. And that's what broke them. Not your anger, not your pain, but the silence that wrapped around their necks like a noose. The echo of your footsteps fading while they still laughed. They thought they won, until the laughter started sounding like static, and the static started sounding like your breath. You didn't leave with weakness. You left with precision. Relationships, jobs, so-called friends. You mastered the vanishing act that doesn't need applause. Because the true power isn't in leaving, it's in the way they slowly realize they'll never hear from you again. Not when they win, not when they beg, not when they break. They scroll through old messages like crime scenes, replaying your silence like a curse. Your ghost became their mirror, and they hate what they see. You are the question that keeps them up, the presence that haunts their peace. They look fine on the outside, but inside, rats chewing through drywall. Paranoia on loop. Did I push too far? Why didn't they fight for me? Why does their silence hurt more than their words ever did? They reach out into the dark, hoping for closure, and all they get is your echo smiling. This isn't petty, this is power. Walking away without a single justification is spiritual warfare. Society tells you to explain, to be polite, to give them a goodbye script so they can sleep easy. No more. You are not a therapist. You are not a tour guide through your soul. You are a storm, one that never announces itself, never asks for permission. One moment it's calm, the next they're drowning in the aftermath of your silence. Let them talk. Let them create stories to fill the vacuum you left behind. That's what weak minds do. They build temples around absence and call it closure. But deep down, they know you're not coming back. You never needed revenge. You became a reminder, a ghost with no chains, no regrets, just the unsettling truth that you were the best thing they never understood. And now, they never will. You don't vibrate the same anymore, and that terrifies them. You don't yell anymore. You don't explain. You don't plead. That version of you is buried 6 feet under ego and noise. What lives now is quieter, but louder, calmer, but lethal. You stopped trying to be understood by people who can't hear you without volume. Instead, you rose. Your silence became sacred, not absence, but elevation. Now, your energy speaks a language their insecurities can't decode, and it drives them mad. They feel it, even if they can't name it. That shift, that detachment, that unnerving stillness that used to be filled with chaos and apologies. You used to break yourself to keep the peace. Now you break patterns. You don't engage, you observe. You don't react, you rise. And that's your revenge. Because when your frequency evolves, their control dies. They can't trigger you anymore. They can't predict you. You've slipped through the cracks of their limited perception and become untouchable. They'll say you've changed, that you're distant, that you've gone cold. Good. Let them feel the frost. Let them wonder why your presence now feels like prophecy. You've tapped into something they fear but don't understand. A realm where peace is power and silence is strategy. You've become a storm disguised as a breeze, too focused to defend, too elevated to descend. This isn't self-help, this is self-ascension. The version of you that needed closure, attention, validation, gone. Starved to death while you were busy feeding your soul. You don't meet people where they are anymore. You wait at higher ground, and if they can't reach, they don't belong. That's not arrogance, it's alignment. So let them talk. Let them label your silence however they need to sleep at night. Because what they don't realize is this: your silence isn't withdrawal. It's warfare. It's frequency warfare. And you just became a weapon they can't hear, but will always feel. Let them tell their version. You're busy writing the final chapter with their names in the footnotes. They needed a villain, so you gave them one. Silent, smiling, unapologetic. They couldn't control your truth, so they crafted their own. Whispered lies behind curtains. Rewrote history at dinner tables. Put your name in their mouths like poison. They claimed to survive, but here's the twist. They didn't survive you. They survived the version of you they invented, the one they could handle, the one they could spin. But the real you, that version never spoke. It just watched and waited. Every lie they told was a confession in disguise. Every smear was proof they couldn't kill your power, only distort it. And you let them, because you learned the secret. Villains live longer than martyrs. Heroes die defending their innocence. But villains, we write the endings. They made you dark. They made you cruel. They made you other. But in doing so, they gave you freedom. You no longer owe anyone the performance of being good. Let them fear you. Let them write sagas in their heads. You don't need to fight their fiction. You became the plot twist, the climax, the final act. Their story ends in your silence and your rise. You don't clear your name anymore. You carve it into stone. While they gossip in circles, you move in silence, stacking empires on every brick they threw. You became the black they painted you with, and black, it doesn't reflect, it swallows. So go ahead, be the villain in their story. Just make sure the story ends with you standing static, while they disappear into your footnotes. That's not revenge, that's authorship. That's control. You don't need to erase their lies, you just need to keep writing until the truth is undeniable. Even in the dark. Kings are not born in light. They rise in the dark, where only monsters survive. The throne wasn't handed to you, it was forged in fire, blood, and silence. Where others saw weakness, you carved strength. Where they screamed for light, you embraced the void. This is no fairy tale, this is apocalypse poetry. An awakening in the ashes of what broke you. The darkness didn't consume you, it crowned you. It crowned the monster they warned each other about. The one who learned that power isn't loud, it's absolute. Unyielding, unseen, until it's too late. You don't speak to be heard, you command without a sound. Your presence is a decree. Every glance, every breath, every heartbeat is a manifesto written in shadows. They expect kings to dazzle. You dismantle that expectation. You rule in quiet dominion, where pain meets power and fear bows before respect. The chaos you once feared, it became your armor. The scars you hide, they are the map to your kingdom. You didn't lose your voice. You traded it for a crown heavier than their judgment, sharper than their doubts. You wear your silence like a king's robe, dark, rich, untouchable, and now every step you take shakes the ground beneath those who doubted you. They watch you rise from ashes, shadows, and silence, not as a man, not as a victim, but as a legend born in darkness. This is your era, and you are the ruler.